promote innovations as well for our barangays, and of course, access to information into mga best strategies. So, para tayo mas magiging prepared rather than us being reactive to calamities. And we want to give that value to our barangays as well. Without further ado, please welcome on stage Mr. Jonathan Matano, First Vice President and Executive Director of Cebuana New Year Foundation, for our welcome remarks.
Thank you, Wayne. Magandang hapon po sa inyong lahat. So nice to be seeing back our friends from the media and of course, fellow or like-minded individuals promoting disaster resilience. To our esteemed panelists from our partner institutions, to our friends from the media and to the rest of our guests, magandang hapon po sa inyong lahat. I am glad to welcome you all to the press conference for this year's Barangay Resilience Exchange, bannering the theme, ang laging handang barangay mahusay. BRX provides a platform for a healthy exchange and multi-stakeholder collaboration between the private and the public sector on disaster risk management. That is from disaster, preparation to response, from rehabilitation to recovery. This is the second time that we are doing this initiative, guided by the same principle of making a difference in the lives of many of our kababayans, no matter where they may be. This commitment has made a reality through the many efforts of Cebuana and Cebuana Foundation as the corporate social responsibility arm of the country's biggest name in microfinancial services. CLFI has taken an active role to be the embodiment of our organization's culture of malasakit, empathy, and of giving back to others through our various programs covering education, financial literacy, and disaster resilience. Our programs in disaster resilience are one that has been ongoing for close to 10 years. And even before the pandemic, we pride ourselves of our annual Disaster Resilience Forum, where we encourage a free exchange of information between private organizations, non-governmental organizations, and the general public towards a nation of prepared and protected Filipinos in the face of calamities. With resilience as one of our pillar advocacies, we cannot let the restrictions imposed by the pandemic serve as a hindrance to this cause. Understanding how collaboration and communications between organizations provided a much-needed lifeline to many of our kababayans during disasters, we launched the first BRX Forum in 2021. To take it a step further from the previous DR Fora, BRX focused more on communities, with the understanding on how the expediency of delivering the services to the people in post-disaster relies so much in community organizing and solid partnerships between public and private institutions. That is why I would like to extend our deepest gratitude to the men and women who comprised our panel today, as well as to the organizations they represent. Their selfless dedication to their duty, their expertise, and more importantly, their generosity made it possible for the 2022 Barangay Resilience Exchange to educate our community leaders and barangay officers coming from the country's more than 400 cities and municipalities. In the next 2 days, the learnings we will share to local communities might be instrumental in saving these localities, their livelihood, and more importantly, their lives in the face of the many natural disasters we face each year. I would also like to thank all of you for being with us today, and hopefully through the power of your respective channels and media, whether print, online, or broadcast, we will be able to encourage more our kababayans and community leaders to tune in tomorrow as we start the 2022 BRX. Again, thank you very much. Magandang hapon po sa inyong lahat.
Thank you very much, Sir Jonathan, for that inspiring speech. Sabi nga sa ating BRX last year, sabi ng isang doktor, ang mga barangay officials natin, sila ang frontliners talaga. Bago naman umabot sa mga doktor, yung mga barangay officials, yung mga tanod, sila ang unang rumiresponde talaga bago umabot sa doktor. Kaya ito ay isang avenue para pasalamatan natin sila sa kanilang suporta para hindi mag-search at further ating COVID-19, and we are more ready, more prepared for incoming pandemics to come, and yung mga sakuna na dadating, ma-mitigate natin at mas maging ready tayo para hindi na sana umabot sa worst scenario. So before we deep dive to our distinguished panelists, let us get to know what does our countrymen say about disaster risk management on the local barangay level. The Tangyere Digital or Acquisition Apps has been tapped by numerous companies already for market research, such as AirAsia, Bella Medical Group, Dunkin' Donuts, Philinvest Corp, and many more. Their CEO became one of the top 100 startups in the world under the Microsoft Emerge program. Grand winner of the CNN Final Pitch Season 4 competition, also the only Filipino to win the 2020 ASEAN Startup of the Year, including his 2020 Ginebra Awards for helping tens of thousands of people during the pandemic and national calamities on the country last 2020. Proud working Junior Chamber International Manila Commissioner and Go Negosyo Mentor to present their market search results. Led by Martin Xavier Peñaflor, President and CEO of Acquisition Apps. Please, round of applause.
Thank you. Magandang hapon po sa inyo lahat. Thank you for having me here. Martin Peñaflor, President and founder of Tangyere Acquisition Apps Incorporated. You might have seen some of our surveys. We are the official partner of Manila Bulletin during the election period for Senate surveys, presidential surveys, among others. But now I'm here to present Project Hope. So this was made in partnership with cebuana for this wonderful initiative. So we did a survey using our application. Nilaunch po namin yung survey na yun last week. We did this in 2 days. 2,400 respondents po ang sumagot ng ating survey using our mobile application. So pakita po natin yan. So if we can move to the next slide. A quick overview lang po of what Tangyere is. We have the largest research panel, or really proud to say we have the largest community of respondents. Mga ka-Tangyere community. Sure Dave, shoutout ko na po sila. Live po tayo ngayon sa Facebook page namin sa Tangyere po. So nanonood po ang ating mga ka-Tangyere. Sila ang sumasagot ng mga surveys natin. Kasama na po dito yung ginawa natin for Project Hope. Now, na-mention ni Dave, we call him Chair Dave, Chairman Dave in JCI Manila. Some of the clients that we've helped, we provide research, affordable research para makatulong po sa ating mga micro, small, medium enterprises. Para malaman po din ang insights ng kanilang market. So not only mga companies such as Mega Sardines, Mega Prime Corporation, RFM, Dunkin' Donuts ang tinutulungan po namin. Even micro companies, we help them with their research programs. And aside from that, of course, we provide our services to different government institutions such as the Dangerous Drugs Board, Department of Trade and Industry, National Nutrition Council, among many others. So dito po, makikita niyo po yung result ng survey namin. Ano ba yung mga survey na ginagawa sa Tangyere? Bakit siya mabilis? I mentioned that we have the largest panel, 700,000 active users na regular sumasagot ng survey, and this is integrated to our data analytics tool. So that's why I'm here now presenting the results of Project Hope. Sample survey namin, alam niyo po ba na 4 to 5 out of 10 are in favor of President BBM signing the SIM card registration law. And it's, makikita po natin yung consistency ng data because 78% naman ang na-disappoint doon. So sample survey results na meron kami ngayon, focus on Project Hope. Moving to the next slide. We have 2,400 users, 18 to 60 years old, all socioeconomic status representative po during the survey. Makikita niyo po sa kanan, on the right side is the breakdown of our demographics. So in this one, in terms of our methodology, what we use here is what we call convenience sampling. But in other surveys, such as for example, political surveys, market research services that we provide to our clients and partners, we use different methodologies, such as for example, random stratified random sampling. So gusto lang po namin pakita dito kumbaga, I'll use the term, yung pulse, yung real-time insight sa mga tao. It's in terms of disaster readiness po nila. So we asked 12 questions using our application, and yun po i-represent namin po this afternoon. So if we'll go to the next slide, ito po yung mga objectives ng study namin. To know the gaps in the disaster management and collaborate with the public and private sector to address such issues. Identify natin ano ba yung mga issues, challenges encountered by the general population in terms of disaster preparedness, among others. So yung ipapakita natin sa survey results namin yan. 12 questions, we raised 12 questions. So una, this is the story we wanted to tell. We wanted to ask them muna, ano ba yung economic outlook nyo? Perceived risk. Then papunta siya sa disaster preparedness natin. So if we go to the next slide. So makikita po natin dito, 1 out of 2, 5 out of 10, kalahati lang ng Filipinos ang may positive outlook. We call this chart the top box and the bottom box. So papansin po natin dito, slightly positive, 33%, 1 out of 3 in terms of economic outlook. And then the other half, titingnan po natin dito, 3 out of 10, may negative outlook sila, 20% can say yung positive or negative. And kung titingnan po natin kasi the advantage of using our application, you can drill down, for example, per age group, socioeconomic status, at very dito, consistent siya across all age groups, socioeconomic status, and even different regions, such as, let's say, mahahati kasi natin to 17 regions, readable basis sa lahat. So makikita natin all areas na NCR, Northern Luzon, Central Luzon, Southern Luzon, consistent po yung data natin. So now, if we move to the next slide, ito naman, perceived level of risk. 6 out of 10 or 3 out of 5, 60% ng communities perceive very high risk, ang sabi nila. In terms of perceived level of risk, sub-question nila. And this is driven by respondents in the Mindanao area, in the Visayas area, Region 1 and Region 2, kung saan lumalabas yung mga bagyo po natin recently. So makikita natin yung breakdown ng demographics. We'll be happy to share the results of the survey breakdown sa inyo after this meeting. So now, in terms of disaster preparedness and importance. Now, if we go to the next slide, tinanong muna natin yung mga respondents namin, ano ba yung mga natural disasters that you've experienced in the past 5 years? So 87%, almost 8 to 9 out of 10 of our respondents nakaranas po ng typhoons. 6 to 7 out of 10, 2 out of 3 po yan, experienced earthquakes, 3 out of 5 floodings, among others. As you can see here, this is nationally representative po, 2,400 respondents po tayo dito. Meron nakaranas ng volcanic eruption because in our respondent base, 22% belongs to the Southern Luzon and Bicol region area. Only at this one, only 4% wala po nakaranas. Experience in disasters the past 5 years. Now, if we go to the next slide, eto naman, importance of disaster preparedness. Kung titingnan po natin yung top 2 box natin, 98%. Everyone agrees that disaster preparedness is important. And we actually did a survey on disaster resiliency early this year. Lumalabas din po doon, same data. Almost 95% nagsabi na it's important to create a department for disaster resilience. So tumutok pa po yung results ng survey namin 6 months ago versus to what we have now. 98%. Take note po that the survey was conducted Wednesday to Friday last week. So medyo fresh pa po yung data natin. So in terms of level of preparation, ito po yung consistent across all demographics. Na medyo nakakatuwa din po makita na 83% of Filipino household are prepared for any disasters. Kung titingnan po natin, 41% in the top 2 box are very well prepared, 42% slightly prepared. Now, ito po tingnan natin sa next slide. This one is interesting. Yung perceived level of preparedness ng community nila. So yung bahay namin, for example, ready po kami dyan. Kasama kami dyan sa 81%. Now, looking at this data, only 69% ng respondents nagsabi na handa ang kanilang komunidad, ang kanilang barangay, city, or munisipyo. So mababa to dun sa 81, if you check the data kanina, 81%. Now dito, ready ang bahay ko. Pero yung community ko, hindi ready. For me, mas pababa. 69% na nagsabi na ready ang kanilang city, munisipyo, at barangay. So dyan, makikita natin yung data dito. Now, if we go to the next slide, ano ba yung mga pinaghahandaan mo? Kasi nakita natin, tinanong naman natin yung 81% na sabi na handa sila sa kahit anong sakuna. Looking at the data here, ano ba yung mga hinanda nyo? Ano ba yung, mic, sir? There go. Looking at the data here, ano ba yung, what are the preparations that you've made? So 75%, 3 out of 4 naghanda na ng tubig at pagkain. Ito yung 81% na ready. Hinanap na nila, ito yung maganda po, 70% of the respondents alam nila kung saan pupunta, open and evacuation areas. 70%, 69%, alam na nila yung mga importance ng warnings and alerts. So natututo sila, especially pag nakakuha ng text, tumutunog, alam na po nila yung mga importance ng mga warnings and alerts na yan. Also, 70% alam na yung actual practices in emergency. So nag-uusap yung bawat pamilya, alam nila ang gagawin. And 2 out of 3, 67%, may first aid kit sa bahay. So ito po yung magandang tingnan. 81% ng respondents who answered the survey are ready for any disasters. And ito yung mga hinahanda nila. Pagkain, alam nila kung saan tatakbo, alam nila yung mga warnings and alerts, alam nila yung mga practices and emergencies, may first aid kit po sila. But, in the previous slide, 69% na nagsabi na handa ang kanilang community. Mahanda ang household, but 70%, 69% na nagsabi na handa ang community nila. So that's a really important data that we should take note of. Now, moving to the next slide, saan ba kayo kumukuha ng information? Ito po ang titignan natin. Normally kasi sa mga surveys namin, for mga FFCGs and so on, ang number one source of information, like for example, when we do surveys or reference clients like RFM Corporation, Lemon Square, BE, gumagawa ng Lemon Square, social media ang awareness ng product nila. Pero kung titignan niyo po dito, 85% sa television kumukuha ng information about emergencies and natural disasters. Yung online po natin, though we place here social media sa Google natin, 81%. So, ito, sa dami ng surveys na ginawa natin na past 24 months, first time na mas mataas ang television sa online. So, in terms of sources of information, people, the respondents in our particular survey, they go to televisions. So sa TV sila nanonood pag may mga information about emergencies and natural disasters. And ito po yung important din. Though mababa siya compared here, ang margin of error po namin dito is 3 to 4%. 64% goes to barangay, local government announcement. Nakikinig pa rin sila. So it's important now na yung mga barangay officials natin, like, for example, sa amin sa Cavite, very active po si Governor Remulla. Dati. So, even now, sorry. So mahalaga sa kanila ang mga local government announcement. Diyan pa din sila kumukuha ng information. Kung titingnan po natin dito, radio. 63% sources of information in terms of emergencies and natural disaster. So television, radio, if we're looking at traditional media, ang newspaper po, 30%. So 3 out of 10 na ang kumukuha ng sources of information in terms of emergencies and natural disasters. So ayan po, pamilya, text, and among others po natin. So now to the next slide, disaster challenges and management. Ano ba yung nakikita nila? When we ask the respondents, ano ba yung nakikita yung challenges in terms of disaster management dito sa Pilipinas? 3 out of 4 said kulang ng pondo. So this is a multi-select question. You can choose up to 9 response. Kung titingnan po natin, 3 out of 4 insufficient funds. Shortage ng tubig, gamot, pagkain, 64%. Ito po, kung titingnan nyo, mas mababa ito sa 69% kanina. Ito ang dahilan kung bakit sa tingin nila na hindi handa ang kanilang community. 54% lack of response in our community. Hindi masyadong responsive, for example, yung nakikita ng mga leaders sa kanilang area. And then, 53% poor response time of agencies. So related sa survey question kanina, if handa ang inyong community, 54% na nagsabi na yung lack of response sa community leaders nila. So ito po yung mga result ng survey natin. Now moving on to the last two questions. Ito, but still, there's still optimism in terms of disaster preparedness. 8 out of 10, 4 out of 5, 80%, depending how you look at it, agree that there's a learning opportunity about disaster preparedness. So may opportunity na pwede pang matuto. There's still room for improvement. Optimistic talaga tayo. This is consistent across all demographics. 78%, 8 out of 10 agree that there's a learning opportunity here. 16%, I guess this is also an opportunity for our local officials. So ito yung pwede pa natin mapakita na baka lang po hindi nila alam na meron mga programa ang kanilang community in terms of disaster preparedness. So yeah, that's a big opportunity right there. That's 16%. So opportunity for our community leaders, barangay officials, for example, to educate their residents about their programs. Now to the last slide. I think it's the last slide here. Ito yung summary ng ranking. Pinaparank lang po natin. We did a ranking, the way we answer ranking sa app namin, you go up and down, up and down. And yung first one will be the highest in terms of priority. Ano ba yung pwedeng gawin ng local government mo? Here, so papatingin natin, preparedness. Focus on education, training, and building capacity to respond and recover from disaster. Yan yung number 1 rank. Anong pwedeng gawin ng ating mga local community leaders? Ang lowest natin, kung titignan niyo po, recovery. So parang this is a proactive approach yung iniisip ng ating mga respondents. So you need to be prepared in order to mitigate risk. Yung response and recovery, if you're prepared enough, if you've mitigated all of the risk, nabawasan na po yung risk natin, that's why they rank response and recovery the lowest. Still being proactive, naiisip na po ng mga respondents natin na if you're proactive enough, nagbigay ka ng tamang edukasyon, training, capacity to respond, and recover from disaster. For example, may mga fire drill, earthquake drill. Yan yung number 1 for them. Ayan po. I think I have another slide. Medyo mahaba to. Open-ended to. Ang ginagamit namin in our application for open-ended voice-to-text functionality. You can speak in Tagalog. The application will listen to you. Now, ano ba yung pinanong natin? Ano ba yung pwedeng recommendation nila? Madami to. We will be sending the analytics for this one. But in terms of, if you can go back. 1 out of 3, 1/3, maging handa ang nagsabi. Just be prepared. 9% magtanim na mga puno, 9% maging alerto. So yan po, again, thank you for listening to my presentation this afternoon. Salamat po. Thank you for this opportunity.